Okay, I'm always saying that I'm interviewing veterans, but this is a real veteran. I met you first, Tobias, in Melbourne, in the marches, where you kept coming up to me with these intense...
intense suggestions, and we marched together, we discussed a lot, and around the 30th or 30th of January in a march on Saturday, there was the call, there's a convoy to Canberra.
Yeah.
And everyone not just, should we go? No, there was the question, are you going? Are you going? I can't. And and then suddenly you said, you're starting from...
Northern Shopping Centre.
Northern Shopping Centre, which had a significant impact as well. History, this was one of the first where the protesters got chased and shooted by the police. So I suppose...
Police were dressed as stormtroopers and went into the shopping centre, and people forget that.
Yeah, and we started from there with a small group of 8 cars. People asked me, do you going? And I was inclined to go for 2-3 days, but I couldn't afford the funding. So people gave me money and said, here's $50. I said, but I don't know that I go, it doesn't matter. So with this $50, I got petrol to start off, and the money the funding came in from everyone. Everyone was supported. People wanted to go but couldn't. And planned was for 3 days. Initially, we stayed in contact over 4 weeks up in Canberra. It slowed down. I went back, and family things and stuff, which caused through the government the division in our relationship. I left the house after a demonstration. We participated, created up to a drum set, participated in drumming to make louder our noise in Victoria. Came back here because I still think the government was the cause, and it is the cause, and it woke me up all the situations during COVID, how they're dealing and applying to the law, because beforehand I'm still a law-abiding citizen or resident, paid my taxes and everything and followed the law. But when you follow the law, you appreciate why the law is made, to keep what is right and wrong. But when you see that the law gets abused to intimidate you and take your rights off, which we saw Limbrick speaking up in the Senate and addressing how many regulations in Victoria get broken against the Human Rights Charter. It is a clear incident that the law got abused to intimidate and enforce something that we know now was completely not justified. And we have a rule of law, and the rule of law is based on guidelines and authorization. And these days, through COVID, it becomes clear that a lot of authorities are abusing this law. Now they want to stop the free speech or social media. But what I don't understand is, through social media, you get different opinions according to law and what is right and wrong and different information. Instead, using these different opinions and debating it or proving it through evidence that these opinions are wrong, they're silencing it.
Yes.
And
so there's no robust debate.
There's no debate. We used to have a round table where politicians in front of TV where discussion certain elements of the law, of the public interest. This disappeared. No one discussed the reasons, should we do, should we not, getting other opinions. Now it was dictated to a certain narrative. There was no question asked, there was no common sense anymore.
And if you challenge it, you're a conspiracy theorist or a nut job.
Yeah. Then they're bringing out the sovereign citizens, because the sovereign citizens movement, they say it uprooted during COVID. And they're saying sovereign citizens above the law. They're ignoring the law. But then recently we have a case in Victoria, he's renowned as a sovereign citizen. But when you see video footages, him in court, standing in court, applying the rules and laws of the court, how certain cases, matters shouldn't be dealt with. He's not above the law, he's in the law. And the frustration I can feel in this person is that we have law enforcement who are ignoring the law and abusing the law. So certain laws that get the authorization, or all our laws get made in parliament. Is it state parliament or federal parliament? And this, in the federal parliament, we have a constitution which gives them the authorization to make laws about certain matters, and it limits them, and there's guidelines. But what we experience is that these limitations and these guidelines get ignored on presumption and beliefs from previous political and lawmakers, because a minister is nothing else than a lawmaker. He gets voted in, and supposedly a minister should represent the meaning of the people, but now they're representing the meaning of a party. That's a completely different thing.
I'm just going to stop you there for a sec. So just starting again, so let's talk about how the rise of sovereign citizens. They're saying, the ABC and the others are saying it's driven by people going crazy on conspiracy theories, but you're saying different.
I'm saying different, yeah, because my first experience with sovereign citizen is when I saw the statement of facts when I was arrested in a authorized assembly area in front of Parliament. So there, I was in the authorized assembly, designated area to protest. It was in the precinct, but it was still designated and everything, and I got arrested for protesting. And in the statement of fact is, it was not allowed for any sovereign citizen movement to be there. So sovereign citizens, I think for me, comes because of the abuse of law. We have a law, we are not allowed to discriminate on any political beliefs. And here, sovereign citizen is politically related. You are excluded on your rights. So that is the government itself, or the people who represents the government, already abusing the law what we're having. They discriminate you on political beliefs and excluding you for participating. And then the recent incidents what we have in Victoria, he's supposedly a self-proclaimed sovereign citizens. And when you read in the comments, everyone said, oh, sovereign citizens above the law doesn't require to them. And no, but when you then look on the video footages, how he acts in court, he represents the majority of the people. He states the law, he states the procedures, and he based all his defense on law, and he exposed how many unlawful, unconstitutional law we have in our environment. So it's not an uproof of law disobedience, no, it's an uproof of law awareness. And then we have Senator from
Limerick? Jackie Lambie.
Jackie Lambie abusing and saying there's so much disinformation and everything, and she wants to limit the social media. But why limit opinions where there raise certain matters? Why don't you, as your responsibility as a government, eliminate these different opinions with matter of facts, prove it, or have a discussion?
So like have a debate.
Have a debate, instead dominate and dictate, and you say you can't have an opinion. And then the uproof comes, she said the uproof comes through in the COVID time. Sure, it comes through in the COVID time. This is the most abuse of law and authority than we ever had. As Limbrick stated in Singh, he mentioned what the Greens agreed to on legislation, which is contradiction to nearly everything of the human rights charter what they created in Victoria. He points out, and people were aware of that, all these mandates and stuff were unlawful, were against the constitution, but nowhere was discussed or nothing. And then we had big marches. There was no recognition, nothing in the media. We had more people than ever, but recently something goes against the text, which is the money of the common people who applied and got certain medications to keep their freedoms. This was acceptable at this time, so no one made public. We had 10 times more people than standing in front debating about a tax.
These were like the Kill Bill.
The
I
Kill
think.
Bill, yes,
The
huge.
Kill the Bill, that was against Premier Andrews' pandemic treaty bill or pandemic bill.
Pandemic bill, which is still horrendous and arbitrary rules what they have. We coming across recently another amendment from a different state where they can legally now, or supposedly under their submissions in legislation, disobey other laws and rights under certain circumstances, which is nowhere acceptable. But people believe these laws are right because they're legislated. But every legislation gets the authorization from somewhere. The Commonwealth legislation gets the authorization from Parliament, from the Constitution. In the Constitution, few sections have submission to be changed. But regularly, if there is a sole section in the Constitution, this is law. There is no adaptability to changing unless you have a referendum, which stated in 128. And as Parliament states, any law is not abiding or in line with the Constitution is unlawful. And people waking up, they're researching because they get so much coerced in the time of the pandemic, in the name of safety, which was never right to do so. And this is why we have an uproar of people standing up and learning the law. I used to...
So what you're saying is like, if I gather right, just before we move on, COVID is where people suddenly went, what is our laws? They can do this? What's a mandate? What's this? And anyone who wasn't happy with what was happening, suddenly a lot of them did an apprentice, a 4-year crash apprenticeship in our laws.
In our laws.
And we found out that a lot of the laws were actually questionably unlawful.
Unlawful, and it came, and then we had certain mandates was once challenged in the Human Rights Act, and with based on immunization, and one human rights minister or whatever in the department ruled in favor, but she got condemned and taken off office and got re-lectured again. So we knew...
We educated, was the word.
We educated, we indoctrinated. So we now... I think the biggest fear of the government is not the sovereign citizens, it's more the legality of the law, the exposure of certain legalities of the law and of the overreach of the law. And this is where it's coming to, the awareness of what's actually happening in law. I got charged for unauthorized camping on unleased national land. So I had no authorization and I got charged for camping. I had magistrate sessioning. I got charged in the magistrate for camping. They couldn't define camping.
Did you ask them to define it?
There is from the common... Camping is used out of the common dictionary. But there was camp and things, but the word camping was not specified. So he came up with a supposedly agreement of two decisions, which was not agreed. I got charged on 12 months behavior and $1 fine. But in this course, I lost my car for 6 months and I lost my place to stay where I was. And all what I was staying was in a car, in an unlimited public car park, with no evidence of camping, nothing. I challenged, and this one got actually published on the register on the magistrate court. So it was my response, it was my doing to state that sleeping in a car as a homeless person looking for shelter is considered camping and it's not allowed. And I couldn't justify with this statement, with this doing. So I appealed in the Supreme Court. And it didn't appeal for the $1 or the 12 months good behavior. I appealed for the right of our people. And I won. Because...
So what was your actual case? You were actually the right to camp, or...
That dismissed the charges. This was not authorized camping. I mentioned different illegalities and stuff But unfortunately, because I had such a good description of camping and related it onto the authorization where the ordinance was made, that the definition of camping should be an, what is it? If you have a hobby, if you do something, I have to pause. I have a lot.
Have a break, have some drink, we'll come back. So we'll have a break, we'll come back with... Okay, so we're getting back now. So Tobias was arrested for illegally camping in Canberra. He was charged $1 and a 12-month... He was sentenced to a fine of $1 and a 12-month good behaviour bond. But you challenged them in the Supreme Court over the definition of camping. Is that... Am I on the right thing?
Yes, definition of camping. So the law what I was charged on was an ordinance from the Governor General. The Governor General got through legislation, was authorized to make this ordinance, but in accordance with the land management plan. And the accusation, or it's my opposition who laid the charges in the first line, referred to a few different other camping charges, magistrate, and the summary of the definition of camping was so different. So we had three magistrates that couldn't define or had different definition. And there's no legal definition of camping. So I made a research what could be the definition of camping. And I went back to the authorization where you get the authorization from. And everything related in this document regarding to camping is a recreational activity. So we say if you camp, should be a recreational activity. And sleeping as a homeless person in a car to find shelter is not a recreational activity. It's not a joy to do so. I can tell you from experience because this is how I want. So we're using phrases in law. We're putting phrases in law where we have no legal definition. And now the same definition of words we're throwing daily and getting accused with. It's the same word with Nazi. Everyone used the word of Nazi, but no one can define it. Even when you Google it, it's a National Socialist in Germany. It has nothing to do. When I first came over, after staying a lot of years in Germany and grew up there, come over here and they said, you are a Nazi, or your partner is a Nazi. Then I said, excuse me? And I said, yeah, Nazi is someone who is thorough and particularly. So this cup has to go there, and this has to be there, and this has to be cleaned. This was a Nazi, someone who is strict on rules. This was the definition what I get. But now suddenly, everyone is a Nazi. Even if you stand up for your own country, if you're a patriot, if you love your country, if you defend your country, you're a Nazi. Another word is racist. Racist gets thrown out everywhere. So we have coming up a march against immigration, supposedly. No one knows what a march is. Everyone tables it anti-immigration and they're calling them Nazis. But since when is immigration a race? Immigration includes everyone. I'm not going into the details.
Both of us immigrants. I'm an immigrant.
Yeah. We all part of these things. So we're using now words to accuse someone. We're using sovereign citizens. There is no public meaning. So the perception is they're above the law. But when they're referring to sovereign citizens, they're staying in the law, they're knowing the law, applying the law, and they get punished for doing so because they're exposing what the government is abusing. So we live in a contradictory world. We need accountability again.
You see it as a way of controlling us for whatever reason through the use of words and through the lack of debate. Yeah. It's like a hive mind. This is what we think. If you don't think like us, then you're a sovereign citizen or you're against us.
Yeah, there's no more debate. If you have the first contact with a police officer who pulls you over and you contest his order and he says, are you trying to arguing? So the first thing is, are you arguing? So you're not allowed to argue or permit your position anymore. Where you're standing in the right. And Lambie said we should cancel social media. We could cancel You have no right of opinions anymore. You can't forward your defense. But so if you're against me, that's like in kindergarten. I don't like you anymore. I don't want to. We avoid stuff. No, we have to debate it.
Well, we have a country now where friendships and families are being broken up
Yes.
because people have different opinions within the family.
Because they wanna save. They wanna keep their world that they created based on beliefs. They
Yeah.
wanna keep it safe, and they don't
An
wanna
ideology.
on our ideology. They don't want it to be destroyed, but they're afraid to hearing truths, matter of evidence, of facts, to contradict with their beliefs. It was safe and effective. They grew in a world, we believe it's safe and effective. The government tells you. We can't question things. If you question things, I put you away. You're excluded. I don't want to listen to you. And this is the wrong approach. We have to see it objectively. We have to take both opinions.
Yeah. Can I ask, when you got arrested, when you won your case, you actually got in the newspaper or ABC or something?
I think I got the Age. I'm not sure. Canberra Times, and then
And were they favourable, these articles?
not favourable, but they were factual. To some kind, to saying that a homeless person won the case against illegal camping. This case could explode more and more, but this is representing again how the system works. That
Haven't you sorry to interrupt, but haven't you set a precedent with that case then?
unfortunately not, because their wording and arguing, they didn't interrogate it. What I exposed and explained, they just stated that I have enough evidence that this was not related to camping.
Yeah.
They didn't went into details to present a precedent. But in the previous magistrate court case, which I should actually sue them for defamation, because since I won my case, this is not a charge anymore, I'm not guilty of these things, it's still lined up on the magistrate court. So they're defaming and saying I'm being charged of illegal camping. So it's still listed on magistrate court as an example that you're not allowed to camp in Canberra on a public national land.
Well, what's interesting is around the country we park a lot, we sleep rough a lot in the bus, and there's always signs that say no camping. And what you're proving is that if you actually have nowhere to stay, if you're homeless, or even if you're living in your vehicle homeless, you're not camping, so the sign doesn't apply to you.
It's supposedly, it depends where the definition comes from in law. In my case, the definition comes from the National Land Act, which relates to camping as a recreational activity. There is bylaws, and it depends where you defend your case in which jurisdiction.
Oh, so other states might have a different definition.
They have different definition, but this is where our law goes all confused. We should have one national law. And every law, as in the constitution written, every law made or constitution previous before the Australian constitution should be accepted. But thereafter, as stated in 109, every law should be in accordance with the Commonwealth constitution. So we shouldn't have any difference from state laws to Commonwealth laws. So we abundant on law. We have over 50,000 legislations, laws, which intertwine with each other. It's too unclear, uncertain. We have to reduce it back to minimum. So we have road acts where they're complying or defining other laws what we already have in our Crimes Act. So it's manslaughter or property damage. Property damage is nothing else when you drive in someone else's car. It falls under property damage. If you drive over someone, it's manslaughter. You don't have to address it make a different legal system. The matter of fact, you killed someone, so it should be the Criminal Crimes Act. We over legislate it. We make it too complicated.
That's what you were saying. Another interesting point. You were saying that the states control education. So why do we have a federal education minister?
Yes.
Can you talk about those things?
Yes. So the Parliament get authorization from the Constitution, mainly in Section 50, 51, I think. What they authorized. They authorized that as authorization to make laws about lighthouses. But nowhere near I can find education. And the education system is based on state levels. But to my understanding, it's mainly accepted. It's not saying, when we go in details and understand the Constitution, so they're really not authorized to make laws what the Commonwealth not can, 109. It's mainly based on acceptance. So the Commonwealth accepts that it can make law. They didn't questioning it because they think it's the benefits. But under rule of law, when you fall a paper trial, there shouldn't be any. And these mandates then get implemented in education from the state departments. And this is why we have so many different state laws. So it's confusing again. In one state you can homeschool, in the other thing you have to make so many permissions before you can homeschool. But it shouldn't be regulated at all. It's only to throw us again under an authority to comply by the government. It's the laws these days get more implemented to protect the government than the people. A law was created to make it easier to decide what is right and what is wrong, to protect our rights, our human being, to protect my property, my right to live, my existence. But these days the law is more protecting of the government. Supposedly in the government we have a separation of law and government, so clearly stated. But then we have the Attorney General, which is nothing else than a minister. And he, in certain instances, has to authorize certain charges in the law before you can, or he can dismiss certain cases in the High Court. So tell me, how is this a separation of law? If a minister has a power to cancel something before it gets heard, there's no separation. So that's a law that shouldn't be made, that he has the authorization to do so. This would be unconstitutional because it goes against the separation of powers. I understand the Parliament has a right to defend themselves, but defending is not excluding evidence or a case. If you defend yourself, you go in court and debate it based on evidence and arguments, and not to exclude. And then the Parliament, how it works, our whole system, it's more a dictatorship. It's a hidden dictatorship, to my understanding. Because
so it's like a dictatorship where they put a thin veneer of word or democracy over it.
Yes,
but underneath the skin, it's a dictatorship.
It's starting off with the voting system. You're not voting for a minister, you're voting for a party. So in the last election we had the Liberals clearly advocating for atom energy. But
you mean atomic energy?
Atomic energy. But the Liberals in Victoria clearly distanced them and spoke against atomic energy. So in the case you live in Victoria, you're against atomic energy, you vote for the Liberals go into Parliament, the Victorian Liberals have a minority, have no say, you give your vote to the majority, to the opposite what you actually voted for. So parties, we had senators, ministers crossing the bench to stand for this what they got elected, to speak their opinion and then represent the people what they got elected for, but it went against the narrative of the party. They got excluded from the party. So you tell me we have a democracy when you get voted for something, but you can't stand for what you vote.
Yeah.
Parties should be eliminated. There is no place of a party in Parliament.
So if we're voting for someone, we're just voting for that person.
For this person. And this person stands for something, and you're voting him in. And he should stand in Parliament and vote and represent what you're voting him for.
So this is true representative democracy.
Democracy.
Yeah.
And then you see, the whole vote, it's based on party system. If you can't cross the bench, then if a party has the majority, they automatically make the laws. If you have no intersection, no debate, you can debate as much as you want, the party forces it through. If you're independent, you can stand for what you want and can apply these things. And it gets through. And parties are not anymore representing what the people want. They're representing the ideology. If they're an agenda, if you get in a party, or you just have to, if you have an agenda, you create a party, you have to find enough members, and then you can push your agenda through how you want. And then we say we have a separation of law. Then we have high court judges. In the constitution, the only limitation of the high court judges under 70 years old. There is maybe internal government legislation where they say you have to have some law decrees. There's another base. So that's one thing. But the other thing is a high court judge get appointed, I think, by the Attorney General. Attorney General is a member of a party. So they can pick and choose who they want and who represent.
Someone who will be favourable to them.
To them. Same, the Governor General used to, supposedly is the representative of the King, which now stated that she takes the orders from the Prime Minister. And the Governor General is supposedly a buffer between the laws and the Constitution. But if she's already chosen, and I don't know, she got a really high pay-wise. So we in passive democracy. We have to bring it back to an active democracy. We can agree, we get rid of parties, where we choose ministers to represent us. We let them make laws, but to implement and make the law lawful, we should have referendums where the people vote and accept the laws to bringing them, making them official, instead just be signed off by the Governor General.
So having more referendums, which we could do electronically even, and just pass them.
We can limit it to maybe say 2 or 3 referendums a year. You can address multiple, and the same thing should be with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister gets elected from a party, not from the whole ministers. So what we should do is the parties can select 3 possible candidates, and it gets chosen through a referendum by the people. And when the people deny it, then they have to sit back and put another person out. The same with the High Court judges. They can suggest 3-4 people, and it should be confirmed through a referendum. This would be then an active democracy.
And putting the people back, giving the people back power.
As in the Constitution says, as we the people are the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
It's not the Parliament.
Yeah.
So we have to update the Constitution. And in the past, High Court judges, and there is a big discussion of the Constitution is old and irrelevant, and we should ignore certain laws. And they're not up to date. But as we recently saw, we had just recently a referendum to bring the voice to Parliament in. So people are concerned with the instant and update of the Constitution. It's up to the people, and when the people decide they don't want to change it and they think it's fit, it is fit.
Well, what was interesting, it was resounding. It was a resounding no vote.
Yes.
And yet some of the states are trying to bring it in anyway, so they're ignoring the will of the people.
So that's the thing. Pretty much in any constitution, you can say you can make laws for good government. There's 3 for the people, good government, and something else. 3 arguments. But how is this good government to bring in a legislation which turns out a law, which the majority of the people of Australia already voted down? How is this good government to go against someone's will? If the majority, it's not just 1 or 2, it's the main majority. They had a referendum and said no. And this is not good government to me anymore to saying we're doing it anyway.
Can I ask, do you think this era we're in now, where there's a lot of unrest in the country, and even the people who seem to be okay with it, you peel away, you get them talking, if you can, and there's unrest. Do you think this is it's basically COVID has ended the She'll Be Right era, and now people are actually waking up? We thought we were this, but we're not. Who actually are we as a people? What are our laws? Where are we going? And they're wanting to have this discussion, but instead, anything that goes against the narrative has just been silenced. And that's causing this division, where if people were just allowed to really talk it out, we might be in a better position.
It's not just being silent, it's our convenience. It's too hard to challenge something. It's like with fines. If you pay your fine, you don't get conviction, you're finished. But in the heart you're right, you didn't do anything wrong. So it's our convenience. It's easier to comply. It's easier to get a jab. It's easier to pay the parking tickets. It's easier to comply and sign up to a digital ID. It's
easier in the short term.
Easy in the short term, and don't worry, there will nothing happen. So now they got rid of normal surfing checkouts, your self-checkouts. A lot of government supporting institution got rid of cash. You go up in Parliament, you can't pay with cash and get a coffee. If you're going into the tram, the machines in front where you update your card, you can't pay cash anymore. The car park in front of the Supreme Court, you used to buy in coins by 5-minute institution. Now they're going digital, straight from your card, but they're going in increments of half an hour, hours. They can't even, where they have possibility to charge you by seconds. So your convenience, and it's voluntarily to sign up to a digital ID. But if you want to receive your super, you have to sign up by a digital ID. If you have a court case for divorce, it goes into the federal court. If you want to have your information, you have to sign up with a digital ID on the case to get your files, unless you go straight to court. You want to participate over the phone decision from a registrar who has no authorization. If you don't object, you'll be divorced if you got served the papers. To defend yourself, you have to sign up in the digital ID, in the digital system. Your rights are losing, and because it's so easy and comfortable and no effort, you just type of you lose your right, you lose everything.
You lose you.
You lose yourself. And I'm starting off, and I'm not agreeing with our government anymore how it deals with us. And I'm not supporting the government anymore. And the only way I think I can dismiss it, either by fighting it in court or stop paying them. And stop paying them is meaning stop paying taxes. But
so you've voluntarily decided to be homeless.
Yes.
And you don't get anything from government, no dole, no assistance.
No. And some services what's supposedly free from certain things, you can't access unless you sign in and go into the system. So I'm going out, I'm trying to go out, you never can leave the system. I don't take any services. I declined public support in court cases, legal aid, because they don't represent you anyway, they just make you comply. So I stopped working. Because if I would work and don't pay taxes, I would break the law. My conscience says, I don't want to break the law. So I can't work anymore for cash. I lived now, since I left 2022, not working.
So you came to Canberra to defend your freedoms in the Great March.
My freedom.
And you're still here. And you're still here fighting for those.
Yes. So I took another break of a year and then going off and everything, but still coming back because there's court cases we need support and to see how our system implements their own rules. It's a matter of jurisdiction and people teaching the law and staying, but they're down researching how much authorization. They just have to look into the Constitution, where they get the authorization from. A lot of people looking authorization going one step. oh, there's a legislation, who gives me the authorization? You have to follow up who gives this legislation the right to be legal and stuff. You have to follow up the whole way back to the Constitution. A lot of people say our Constitution is one of the best in the world. It could be better. It's a manual for the Parliament to make laws. And in my divorce case, I want to comply for the Minister of Family. So I rang the office in Parliament. Oh no, there's no one there. So you have to call it in his state. So it was in Victoria in a certain electorate. But they only take complaints from members of the electorate. But yet they're represented in Parliament making laws for the people. So on national level you can't address them. On state level they don't take you because you're not in their electorate. But they're making decisions and you can't complain about them for the whole country. This is how our system is infiltrated and corrupted. It's broken to be not working.
When I met Jesus Christ, he was almost 10 years old. And he was helping his mother push a trolley full of all they owned. And because they couldn't find an inn they could get in, they were heading to the city and leaving Bethlehem. Couldn't you perform a miracle? I'm out of them, he said. I tried turning nothing into warmth, but it just made my mother cry. It just made my mother cry. Mary Magdalene has become a man, and tonight he's old, and she has been riding my tram. Now it's late and she's trying to sleep beneath a poster for a bank. Your dreams are important to us as it bathes her face in gold. Come give us your natural gifts, we make wealth from toil. Come pretend for history's page that we're advancing Australia. Let's pretend that we're all advancing Australia fair. Back down the road I found the church we built on the black man's bones was empty, and out the front a sign read all but sold. A sign read all but sold. And we all owe so much money, but to whom we're not quite sure. So head down, we just keep running along our fading golden shores. So head down, we just keep running